Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So yes, I haven't recorded a video in a very long time. It's been a pretty busy past few months with my life and whatnot. It's a long story. But yeah, I'm back, and I haven't recorded in a while, but I will be recording into the future months. And I just, sometimes a break like this is very much needed because as I was just away for so many months, I kind of realized how much I missed making these videos. So it's better to take like a long break and not burn out than force myself for no apparent reason. And towards the end, last spring, or this past spring, I was getting a little bit more tired of making these videos. But now, I'm making it because I genuinely very wanted to. I'm back, and let's talk about this big storm that is going to be coming. So, this isn't going to be like your classic fall or winter storm where you have a defined low pressure. We might get the one kind of after this system that's more like that, but it's more of a summer one. It's going to be a cold front out ahead of this cool air mass, which I will make a separate video about, and the temperatures that it will bring. But this thing will obviously bring a lot of severe weather, as with any summer big storm. There's always a threat for that. And notice that the Storm Prediction Center for this is, I believe, tomorrow, because for today we mainly have an area across the upper plains here and into portions of the west and across the northeast coast. Still, obviously, a lot of activity, but this is the old storm that kind of is pushing away. Now we're talking about this new one, and you can see that it's mainly affecting cities kind of like Rapid City or just north, the Black Hills of South Dakota. Tomorrow, though, on Tuesday, till 4th, there's going to be a massive area through Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, to Colorado, into Kansas and Wyoming, and Michigan, the UP right there. So many areas under slight, even an enhanced area. This will probably increase even more. The enhanced area will probably grow bigger. Biggest threat is winds and hail, though tornadoes definitely also a threat. And then notice on Wednesday, it's also another very large areas, large cities, Chicago, Indy, Denver, Kansas City, even Detroit, Columbus among the marginal areas. So many areas going to get impacted by this. So it's obviously a pretty dangerous situation with that regard. Many areas will get picked up with the winds from these storms and whatnot. So let's start off by looking at the European model. The European model, notice we have a very strong system, which is actually, if you think about it, how I mentioned earlier how there won't really be a low pressure tied with this system like we typically see in winter or fall. Well, there will be. It's going to be pretty far towards the north, though. It's not really going to be bringing the impacts directly, but it's going to be the cold front that's brought by this system out ahead of this cool air mass, which it's going to be bringing because of how powerful it is, and it's going to be spinning this cool air around. And notice that, again, today is that first day, right, into the overnight hours and evening hours. We see those storms across the Dakotas and into Wyoming, but really the big day, first big day, is tomorrow into the 4th. And you can see there it blows up during the afternoon and evening hours into anywhere from like 6 p.m. to midnight across, again, the same areas the Storm Prediction Center highlighted across with their Tuesday outlook. So the European showing, many areas, Minneapolis, potentially Des Moines, Iowa, Sioux Falls, Sioux City. If Des Moines would be impacted, it would be later on, way after the fireworks shows of the 4th. But you can see this cold front, the European definitely shows staying together through the overnight hours, actually pretty well. Usually during the summer, we see these things fluctuate from a really strong storm cold front in the evening hours with the daytime heating, and then it falls apart during the night. This will obviously weaken during the night, but you can see then by the 5th it strengthens yet again, becomes impressive, pretty slow moving. It's not racing across these areas, so many areas could get dropped. Could get hit by several thunderstorms, get dropped several inches of rain, especially areas that have already seen heavy rain. There are a few areas in the Midwest that's seen quite a bit of rain. I mean, here in Chicago, just a few days ago, I think there's several locations that got over almost 8 inches of rain, so absolutely incredible. We were really dry, though, so it caused a lot less flooding than it typically would. And notice that cold front then does spread into late Wednesday and Thursday across, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and it does move towards the northeastern United States. And you can see that will obviously be another cause for concern across those areas. But these areas are dry, a lot of these areas, so this is probably some good news as opposed to bad news. And by the way, after this system, the pattern remains active. You can see more and more storms, potentially even more developed and stronger than the other ones, and that's when the cold air could really start circulating around. So yes, if you live across the Midwest, the Great Lakes, it's going to be actually surprisingly chilly the July, at least it seems the first half, and I don't see this pattern breaking into the second half of July. That's kind of what we've been dealing with most of June. And just talking about this cool weather, I want to show you the EPS. So this is a European ensemble, many models combined. It's kind of an average look of what the European family thinks, which is one of the better, more accurate ensembles that we use in weather forecasting. And do note that they do show that pretty stark anomaly of temperatures following this cold front, which is going to be again out ahead of this. So you can see this is Wednesday into the 5th, the 6th, and you can see it's going to bring a lot of cool temperatures into the Great Lakes, even the Northeast eventually as it makes its way there. Obviously, this isn't going to stay around forever, but you can see it keeps its share. Keeps its I guess footing for quite a bit, and as we go further and further out into time, you can see the models kind of disagree on what will happen. It doesn't really show warmth, but it does show at least potentially a neutral. So maybe warm, maybe cool. We'll have to see. Definitely the south, though, the southern United States will stay warm, as well as much of the southwest, and of course Canada right here. They've been pretty hot this year. It looks continue to be pretty warm. The wildfire situation there probably won't be getting much better because of that because of that heat there. So again, if I look at Wednesday, so this is July 6th, I believe, or 5th, July 5th, you can see, I already showed you this, but more in detail, you can see this cold front's going to be affecting, again, a very large area, large cities, Chicago, even Kansas City, could get in on this. St. Louis has been, these areas have been very active with the rain these past few days, so the rainy pattern for them continues. And then notice into Thursday, we see this threat shift back towards the west again, probably on day 6 and 7, spreading further east as well, except the Storm Prediction Center doesn't show that because it's still way too far out to make any detailed graphic like that. Let me show you what the GFS model shows from this system. Very similar. You can see the system's relatively strong right there across Manitoba and Saskatchewan, straddling those two provinces. And as we put this into motion, you can see that cold front firing up into tomorrow and tonight. Those storms across first, again, the Dakotas, Minnesota, and then moving on towards the south. Pretty slow. Again, it's not going to be racing across these areas. It's going to be pretty thick in terms of its, I guess, impact zone, and also pretty slow. During the nighttime hours, obviously, those areas that will, get the front during the overnight hours will probably get limited rainfall because of how it weakens. So that includes maybe the Quad Cities, southwestern Wisconsin, southeastern Iowa. But notice that during the day on Thursday, these things heat back up, or sorry, on Wednesday, these things heat back up really quickly. Chicago, central Illinois, southern Missouri, there into Arkansas. And again, timing this exactly is pretty much impossible. Do note, though, there's the high pressure behind it, driving in some of that cool air behind it, and that cold front does eventually work its way towards the northeast. Not necessarily as much severe weather, but it's again slow moving, so there will be some thunderstorms, some small hail and whatnot, those threats. And notice, just like the European model, the GFS shows an active pattern. You can see that these areas continue to see some showers, storms, which is good. The Midwest overall has been drying out this past spring and summer. Some areas literally haven't had rain in months and weeks up until just a few days ago. So this rain isn't necessarily something bad, but look, we even start seeing the 540 line making its way into southern Canada, which isn't unheard of for this time of the year, but it's definitely indicative of a cooler pattern, right? I mean, typically we've seen, especially the last few years, I remember Julys that have been pretty darn warm, especially for southern Canada. Now you can see there are some signs of cooling down and some systems that are kind of work around that lobe and vertice of cool air. So definitely a potential for slower moving systems and systems we would typically more see again during the winter and whatnot. So yeah, an active pattern will continue. Storm after storm sweeping through. Severe weather will be obviously a concern. But if you look at the temperature anomalies on this website, according to the GFS, I showed you the European ones. You can see immediately following this system, that cold front, we do see a cool off, which will be nice. It's been very hot, at least for my area here. Very humid. Humidity has been just rancid. To put it in lack of better words. And notice that, again, obviously, out ahead of each cold front and front of each system, there will be some sort of a warming up. That's typical. But you can see the cool air is never far away. And some of these lobes, especially the GFS right there, shows, again, that could bring some areas into maybe even the upper 40s, lower 40s. Something we don't really typically see during this time of the year. But again, not unheard of. And in fact, let's just check this out. So, hour 246. Again, it's far out, but let's just assume something like this happens. Yeah, you could see, this is during the day. During the nighttime hours, it's probably even cooler. Yeah, you could see 40s, maybe even some light frosts across some of these areas, which, again, polar bears live up here, so just to give you a perspective, it's not crazy, but definitely some cooler air, something more you'd see during the fall. And yeah, that's basically all I wanted to give you guys a brief rundown of this system. So again, the biggest threat for today is mainly across the Dakotas, especially South Dakota, and more specifically Western South Dakota and northeastern Wyoming. Also the northeast coast, the Chesapeake Bay, Delaware, Southern Maryland, extreme southern New Jersey, eastern Virginia, and northeastern North Carolina. And the biggest threat across both areas are the wind and hail, though tornado possibility is definitely there at 2%. They will be small, though, if they do occur. Tomorrow, you can see it's across many areas. Again, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin. So if you live across the yellow areas and especially the orange areas, watch out, especially for 4th of July. These storms can sneak up on you. But even if you live in a green, you should keep an eye on for that. And if you live in the areas on Wednesday in the yellow, you should also obviously keep an eye on for these storms. Same scenario during the kind of afternoon, evening hours. The biggest threat for those strong thunderstorms. But again, even in the green, which you can see is absolutely massive, the marginal, I mean, it covers like a third of okay, maybe not a third, but like a fifth of the United States here. Many large areas, right? Detroit, Columbus, Memphis, Milwaukee, Oklahoma City. Cities of millions, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions, potentially under thunderstorm risk, severe thunderstorm risk. And on Thursday, you can see the area is classic along the front range of the Rockies. So a lot of activity. Again, this storm system will be bringing some nice cool air though behind it. So if you don't like the heat, that will be kind of the reward, if you will. All right, that's basically it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.